Hello viewers and welcome to this list of 10 2D retro platformers you may have missed. We start with Golden Force, which released in early 2021 to a fairly muted reception, I think it's fair to say. It's a game I've covered in the past that you can regularly buy for under £4 or €5 or $5, and if you're a child of the 80s or 90s, I think you're going to find a lot to love here. Choosing from one of 4 player characters at the start of any given level, all of which play identically with only aesthetic differences in their attacks and movement, it's immediately clear that while the game is challenging, it's completely fair. And Golden Force features some of the most enjoyable bosses I've fought in a platformer for some time, balancing pattern recognition and time to kill very well indeed. While there are some classic trial and error sections, overall I really enjoyed the level design across the game. There's plenty of verticality and it's great to see a game actually find a purpose for its secrets and collectibles. The longer you keep a combo going, the more coins you beat out of enemies. Keep it all going long enough and you'll be able to trigger a massive full screen attack. You'll also be able to buy temporary buffs for your health and weapons between levels based on how many coins you manage to escape with. Even better, Golden Force hides 4 golden tokens and 1 ammonite around every stage. Saving these up will allow you to buy a permanent extra hit point or another strike in your attacking combo to deal with enemies quicker. This game is bursting with character, with excellent animation, controls and a decent soundtrack. If you're a 16-bit platformer fan, please do take a look. Back in the early 90s, Zool was considered one of the better post-Sonic platform games, with plenty of speed, attitude and a legally required level based on sweets and cake. Indeed, the game was sponsored by Chupa Chups, helping with video games' early image as a healthy lifestyle choice. Zool Redimensioned is a great little package that takes everything the game did well first time around and builds on it with redesigned levels, bosses and a few modern flourishes like checkpoints and a level select. It even features the full Mega Drive game if you happen to think that things were just fine first time around. I was immediately impressed with the graphics. A lot of modern takes on retro games fail to optimise their artwork for today's giant TVs, meaning the pixel art can look a bit blocky. There must be an entire generation of children growing up now wondering what the hell all the fuss was about when it comes to sprites. But the developers have done a great job with making everything look crisp and clear at scale. There's a massive nostalgia hit across each of the distinct areas, with 28 stages in total. I like how you can play the game in your own style. Do you prefer to seek out every last collectible? Are you a speedrunner going for the stage record? Both approaches are equally rewarding and the levels are so enjoyable and of a well-judged length that you'll be happy to go through any of them multiple times. The Shantae games have always been good value across every system on which they've appeared. They're always complete games full of great ideas, tight controls, excellent graphics and some vicious hair. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is no different and it's become one of my favourites in the series. I love how every level really does offer you something different. It doesn't just change the colour scheme and reskin the enemies. You're always being asked to tackle a different type of platforming or a clever puzzle, usually involving careful timing, but rarely one that stops you dead in your tracks. You will have to pay attention to certain conversations as you progress and make sure you seek out a fair few items that don't immediately scream important in order to move forward. Equally, you may at times think you found something of significant interest only to discover that it just provokes a bit of light-hearted conversation with an NPC and not a lot else. But hammering around with your ever-increasing abilities, especially when going back to earlier levels to seek out bonuses, is a lot of fun, and you can never know what the next level is going to throw at you. As many of us know, obesity is now such a problem in the Western Hemisphere that 2 out of 4 people are the same person. In Super Perils of Baking, the levels are overrun by an army of junk food terrorists, and it's up to our hero to stomp all over them and throw whisks in their general direction, rescuing us all from tooth decay and type 2 diabetes. This is one for fans of classic, straightforward platforming, and an example of an indie passion project done well. Seriously, this game is great fun. You aren't going to find a lot of variety across the level design, and there is a lot of repetition in the backgrounds and mechanics, but you will find a lot of character, tight controls, and an old school challenge that's perfect for when you just want something straightforward for an hour or two. At the same time, there's plenty of optional challenges, like timed runs or completing levels without dying, and finding all the bonus levels and collectibles is very addictive for all you completionists out there, especially with the promise of 47 trophies or achievements. Gimmick 2 is perfect for those of us who miss the more challenging 16-bit platformers. Seriously, I know this game looks more sickly sweet than a pile of purring pussies, but it will boot you in the nuts repeatedly if you don't bring your A game. As a sort of Kirby-style blob, you need to make your way left and right, up and down through a number of expansive levels, each with their own puzzles, surprisingly aggressive enemies, and the inevitable bosses. Each level is subdivided by well-placed checkpoints into mini stages of sorts, asking you to throw a star that you can conjure at will, either as a weapon or a trigger for certain puzzles. Timing and momentum are often critical, and it can take several goes to progress through each area. There are plenty of secrets to find, including numerous skins and hats for your character, although none of them do anything to alter the gameplay in any way. They're purely for the completionists. Overall, and despite appearances, Gimmick 2 isn't for anyone who just wants a bright and breezy platformer to bounce through for a few hours. This is all about the challenge and hunting down some deliberately tricksy trophies and achievements. So, apparently you pronounce this Kaze. I'd been calling it Kaze. I know people have been calling it Kaze. Whatever your preference, she's a purple bunny and you jump on shit. Actually, that's selling this game wildly short. It's true that Kaze and the Wild Masks doesn't particularly do anything you won't have seen countless times before in a platformer, but what it does do is hone to near 16-bit perfection. The graphics and movement in particular are absolutely spot on, allowing for a game that's challenging but always fair and a lot of fun to conquer. I've rarely found a platformer that controls this well actually. It gives you the freedom to really attack each level at any speed you choose. As Kaze the rabbit, you'll need to battle some pretty nasty vegetables across a huge variety of stages, using a ground pound or a spin attack, gliding around with your helicopter ears to find secrets and bonus levels, and donning the titular masks. These power-ups are specific to certain levels and have you sprouting wings and flying, swimming like a shark, running as a lizard or climbing walls as a tiger, and they're a great way to mix up the standard platforming. Kaze never tries to overcomplicate things. There are some very tricky levels, including endless runner-type sections that force you to learn enemy and platform patterns in order to succeed, and I really don't mind that personally, especially with movement and controls this fluid and responsive. Once you've completed a level, you can also tackle it as a time trial, which adds another level for speedrunning trophy hunters. Kaze, Kaze, Kaz and the Wild Masks is a highly polished, complete platformer, and it's definitely worth a look for fans of the genre. Okay, so you haven't got much time. Maybe you're waiting to go out, or you've got dinner cooking and there's only 20 minutes until everything's ready. But rather than doom scrolling on TikTok, watching a succession of total bugs confirm that Britain definitely hasn't got talent, you want to play something quick and easy. Action Henk could be your man. This is as simple as it gets. Run from left to right over a variety of obstacles, trying to set the quickest possible time, and it's brilliantly addictive fun. Henk may look like a retired darts player, but he can run, slide and swing through a huge variety of courses, with each new ability gradually becoming available as you progress. There are several other characters and skins to unlock, none of which bring any new advantages, and many look like grotesque models rejected by the producers of Small Soldiers, but it's always nice to have unlockables to keep things interesting. Nearly a decade on from its original release, no one is pretending that this is Game of the Year material, but you can regularly get the whole thing on sale for less than £2 or $2, and if you just want something quick to pass the time, Action Henk is worth a look. Clockwork Aquario holds the Guinness World Record for the time between a game's starting development and its eventual release. 28 years and 81 days. Originally meant to have been released into the arcades in 1992, the game was cancelled by Sega at the last minute. Fast forward the best part of 3 decades and the brilliant retro revival studio Inin, based out of Berlin, have taken the largely complete Clockwork Aquario code and finally finished the game. The result is a truly joyful experience that will spread a grin across the face of anyone who grew up in the 80s or 90s. It's the purest form of arcade, brash, challenging and brief. For today's more discerning audience, Clockwork Aquario is far from the most expansive or complex title, but it's still brilliant fun to play, with responsive controls, enjoyable level design and bosses, a great soundtrack, 2-player co-op and these excellent pixel art graphics. If you're a collector, then Strictly Limited Games has been knocking out some physical copies, otherwise you can easily find Clockwork Aquario at an often heavily discounted price on all the usual console digital storefronts. Sadly, an intended PC release hasn't materialised as yet and there's no date for when it might, so it's consoles only for now. Platform fans will likely know that Freedom Planet has an excellent sequel which arguably betters this first game in many ways. But if you're new to the series, I seriously recommend that you start here first, because this original game is still fantastic. Developer Galaxy Trail really know their pixel art, and they've put together a sizable package to show it all off. There are 14 levels in Freedom Planet, most of which are divided into 2 stages, and completing these can take you anywhere between 10 and 25 minutes. Of course, longevity means nothing if the level design is more boring than a Romanian roadside cafe menu, and I'm pleased to say that Freedom Planet is overwhelmingly time well spent. Like all the best arcade platformers, there's a pleasing sense of speed when you really want to get going. Movement isn't quite as tight as, say, the original Sonics, with the occasional jump proving tricky to judge, but after a while you learn to compensate for the difference in momentum, and I never found the controls frustrating. You can choose from 2 characters initially, with a third unlocked fairly early on in the campaign, and they do all offer something a bit different in terms of attack and traversal. Carol the Wildcat's motorbike is particularly good fun for getting around, including up sheer cliff faces. All in all, this is a tight, great looking and generous package for gamers of all ages, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Galaxy Trail do next. If you're a child of the 80s, there's a very good chance you were in at least one huddle in the school playground, giggling away as the naughty kid introduced you to his collection of Garbage Pail Kids trading cards, and tried to hide the fact that he was chewing the gum that came with them. Out of nowhere, these gruesome little characters, designed as a kind of reaction to the then wildly popular and sickly sweet Cabbage Patch dolls, exploded to become one of the most talked about collectibles of the decade. There always seemed to be endless stories about the cards you hadn't seen, the ones that were funnier, more disgusting, more offensive. They got banned everywhere, and apparently so did the video game.
Rumors have swirled around for decades. Where is this game? Did it exist?
But that's not quite true, and a short promotional video featuring the developers that you may have seen online and which is included with this game package is a little bit of harmless Blair Witch style fun. There never was an official video game in the 80s or any time since, until now. So, while we have what looks like a classic 8-bit romp complete with chiptune soundtrack, you're actually playing a game with a number of modern twists. Bouncing through 6 lengthy and varied levels in any order you like, you can swap between the 4 wonderfully disgusting player characters on the fly, depending on who you need for each situation. Mad Mike wields his sword and axe, Luke Puke barfs projectile vomit in an arc, Patty Putty can jump higher than anyone else and butt bounce, while Leaky Lindsay is your run and gunner, but with snot instead of bullets. Along your journey you'll collect and trade power-up cards based on more of the famous characters, allowing temporary buffs like flight, reviving a dead player character, or detonating an entire screen full of enemies. It may look incredibly simple, but for fans of the 8-bit era you're actually getting a really generous package here, one that includes a surprisingly enjoyable platform game, albeit one that likely won't appeal to anyone much younger than 40, digital replicas of the original trading cards, and even a 20-minute stop-motion movie with Christian Slater in the lead role as Mad Mike. It's a lot less disturbing than the 1987 live-action film if you've seen that, which may or may not be a bonus, depending on your viewpoint. If you're a collector within an original Nintendo Entertainment System, keep your eye out for someone selling a copy of one of the limited edition cartridges for the game in a very fetching hue of blue or pink. I suspect they might be pricey though. Either way, fans of this excellent and largely forgotten series should definitely take a look at this game. Thanks very much for watching today. Have you played any of these games? Please let me know what retro platformers you'd recommend in the comments section, and don't forget to hit like and ding that notification thing if that's not too much trouble. I'll be back very soon with a hell of a lot more games, new and old, so stay tuned. Cheers for now.